And so for the first time since Syria became independent in 1946, a Syrian leader has come here to Washington and entered the White House. Ahmed al-Sharaa is a former jihadist. In fact, how things change and how quickly in this remarkable period we're living in world history. A year ago, Ahmed al-Sharaa was regarded by the United States as a terrorist. In fact, America put a bounty on his head of 10 million US dollars. They wanted this man either in detention or they wanted him completely exterminated. Now, a year later, he's here in the White House being feted by Donald Trump. Now, the key thing that's happened in the interim is that in December last year, Ahmed al-Sharaa led a team of fighters who came from the north, from Idlib in the north of Syria, and they marched over 11 days. It was one of the most remarkable military operations we've seen in modern times. He essentially took on the might of the Syrian Assad military machine. And bit by bit, that military machine just crumbled like dominoes. One after the other just fell. They marched from the north right into the capital, Damascus, and Assad had to flee. In an emergency situation, he had to flee to Russia, where he's now in exile. So the Americans have now made that decision that, given that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, especially in the Middle East, that given Ahmed al-Sharaa is an enemy of Iran, Iran, after all, was the major backer of the Assad regime in Damascus. Now, essentially, Iran's influence has been expunged from the Syrian capital, for the moment at least. Who knows how long that will last. But the Americans are now thinking that given that Iran has lost Syria as one of its proxies, we need to get in and support them. Now, since al-Sharaa took over, some sanctions have been eased against Syria, but what the Syrians now want and what they're lobbying Donald Trump for is that the remaining sanctions are removed. After 14 years of civil war, Syria is in deep economic trouble. Now, they're trying to rebuild that economy and they're finding it difficult given that there are still many remaining sanctions. Now, Donald Trump met al-Sharaa in May in Saudi Arabia, where he described him as a young, attractive guy, tough guy, strong past, very strong past, Donald Trump said, fighter. Now, it's fascinating how somebody who can go from being a terrorist in the eyes of America to a tough guy, very strong past. It shows you that we're living at a time where there's so much global uncertainty, where history and geopolitics are being made and fashioned by the day, by the month. And America has decided that we need to back this new president of Syria, self-declared president, mind you, no elections or anything. He's taken over at the barrel of a gun, but they've decided that he now is their man. They want stability there. They're going to try to prop him up as much as possible because they want another ally in the Middle East.